Detective Comics 1073. This is Ram V and Ivan Reis on the art. So, yeah, we obviously had the big cliffhanger last issue with the Batman having the decision to whether, to whatever the other one was, or blow up where he was, but the buildings to save the rest of the city, which obviously he picked. And this kind of kicks off with, of course,
we knew you were going to do that because you're so selfless.
Yeah, obviously he wasn't prepared. The villain, what's his name? Arzen.
Arzen, Orgum, yeah.
Orgum, yeah. He wasn't prepared to die with them, of course. So they had the tunnels reinforced, all that jazz.
Contingencies.
Yeah.
It was almost one of those things where it's like, well, Batman, we knew what you were going to do, but it's twofold, right? It's like, yes, you're willing to sacrifice yourself for the city. However, without you, what is Gotham? So like, there's an ego thing with Batman that Arzen's accusing him of, and as much as I like to hate on Bruce sometimes, I think that's a wrong reading from Arzen, right?
Yeah. Also, there's a second artist here. I should have mentioned. I was looking at the second page there, going, "That doesn't look like Reese," and then I went back to the credits page. I was like, "Yeah, there's also Goran Sudska."
Sujic, yeah, or Suj.
It's not Sujic. It's
no.
Suzuka.
Yeah, there you go.
There you go.
It's one of those Eastern European names.
Because I was looking at the second page and like Gordon's face is very flat, and I'm like, that doesn't look like Ivan Reis.
Yeah.
So, I didn't see that when I was getting credits off of Comic Geeks.
Yeah, it feels like Ivan Reis does all of the Batman stuff in the tunnel with Orgum, and then the other guy's doing the outside, the going-ons of Gotham.
Which is an okay way to split it up, but certainly it's a much flatter art style than Reese. Even on Barbara's face, for example, it's very, very flat. Yeah,
they don't complement each other that well. So, but I didn't have any. It didn't take me out of anything. But yeah, I mean, when Arclight does show up, it looks good in that art style.
I think his suit lends itself to that because it's like the dark with the light lines, so it kind of lends itself to a flat style.
That contrast they can play with. Yeah.
So we have this explosion. Nightwing and Co got everyone out of the building though, so obviously no one got hurt. And the transition between the arts isn't too bad because it is such a stark difference in color palette, and it's a different location, and we're in the tunnels and all that, like you said. But the Arzen's big thing is, the Orgum's big thing is that they've got the lady with all the eyes, right? She goes on camera and they start beaming out to everyone in the city, basically mesmerizing them and brainwashing them into like what their idea of the future of Gotham is. Whilst Batman's taking on Arzen himself. And it's actually, like you say, Arclight shows up and smashes all of Oracle's equipment to basically save her from being hypnotized, and then she calls her dad, and he is like, you know what? I've been brainwashed and like mind controlled and all these things before. I'm pretty.
I've been Scarecrow gassed, Joker gassed. They've injected me with venom. I think my brain's okay. I really did love that. That was a fun little piece from MV to show that Gordon, he's got that dog in him.
He also saves Montoya from being brainwashed because he opens the police truck and she's like staring at the screens like she's in.
I love that he smashes it. She's like, "What the hell, Gordon?" And then it clicks. That was a lot of fun.
Yeah, it's almost like time is frozen until they get smashed, and she's like, "What the hell are you doing?" And so we're setting up that a lot of the city is going to be kind of under the influence of the Orgums, or at the very least not complying in the same way they normally would with everything going on.
Right, because of that reality engine, right? That's deep in there. It's magnifying her powers.
I do like actually Arclight showing up felt a lot more natural here compared to the last time the Vigil showed up, because we've read a couple of issues of their book now. They've established a lot more thoroughly to us, the audience, that they're about tracking down devices and technology that are too powerful and could cause too much harm. So the idea of this reality engine being something that's on their radar actually does make a lot of sense.
Yep. I thought the same exact thing. So when he shows up, I wasn't confused like I was at the first time. Like, wait, what the hell is the Vigil here? Because we had him in that one shot, essentially. But here, like you said, two issues in, Arclight being the point man on this one especially too, because it is using the TV screens and the monitors and all that other stuff. He's pretty effective. But yeah, no, I think her name's Shavad, the serpent. They keep calling her with all the eyes.
Do you know what? I remember who all the characters in the family are.
Yeah,
but I don't remember any of their names. Yeah, they all just immediately leave my brain as soon as we're done talking about the issue.
But the only reason I know that is because I'm open on a page that has her name.
Oh, very good, very good.
Yes, but yeah, she's the multiple eyes on her and stuff. It's all very cool.
And we've seen her like mesmerize people and convince them to do things before, but this is obviously through TV cameras. This is a much grander scale. Yeah. One thing I will say I don't like about the art, specifically the Ivan Reis art, is I don't really like the choice when Arzin goes like supernova and like hulks up. I don't like that he physically gets like big and like 90s Bane looking with all the muscles. I actually think that's a bit. It feels really in a story that's felt very fresh and different, and like we're introducing a set of unique villains that are functioning differently. I think having him just hulk up like he's Bane like this made him feel a bit more generic. So I think that was maybe a mistake on the choice of whether it was Ram V's instruction or Reese's decision himself. I think that was a bad choice to make him just go muscly like that.
Yeah, like, because there's other ways you could do it to make him just as strong and bulky, He kind of maybe turns to metal, Colossus style, or maybe even like the Thing, right? But just to have him venomed up, and it kind of looks silly with that tiny mask.
Yeah. Yeah.
Like...
Yeah, there's that panel where he's punching Batman and like the arms coming up into the next panel, and the face looks dead small compared to the rest of the body. It's just a choice I don't like that much. I think keeping him sleek, but just saying that he is stronger now without like maybe you could visualize it in some other ways, but I just don't think the going ultra 90s Bane look is what I do with it. But at the end of the fight, he actually takes Batman down by tricking him by holding like a vial of the asthma in his hand, and because he goes to punch Batman, then opens his fist instead. And lets that all go into Batman's face.
It's almost like it's almost like the inverse of when I think it's Neo is fighting Agent Smith at the end of the first Matrix, and he goes to punch, and then he stops it, and then he makes the four fingers and gets him in the throat. And it's almost the opposite of that, where he goes to punch and stops it, but that's what he wanted him to do.
Oh wait, no, okay. I was trying. I couldn't think of it. I was trying really hard because I was imagining this. But it's like, no. There's a moment where he goes to punch him in the chin, and he doesn't quite reach, so he goes like that and lifts his fingers up and gets his throat. Yeah. I remember.
But this is like the opposite, where he wanted Batman to stop it so he could essentially blow the gas in his face and affect him with the asthma, which
obviously, at least in a sequence where Batman has to escape, and he plants an explosive quickly on one of these little bat bombs on Orgum, but he has to do there's this great couple of pages where he's like escaping throughout the sewer, he's going down this whirlpool, and then you see Barbatos sort of pick him up, and this is in his mind, of course, effectively, but you see Barbatos pick him up, and basically Barbatos' narration or dialogue comes in saying, hey, you're going to have to hand it over to me and let me take charge, you're going to have to let me do my thing, like you keep resisting the temptation to give in to me, but and it even says that as Bruce goes off at the end to go deal with stuff, basically this drug that's in his system, this asthma that's now in there fighting for control, Barbatos is the one going to be fighting it off. And I think what I like about this is that this more explicitly leans towards, at least in this context of this Detective Comics run, that Barbatos is less this, mythological thing that Grant Morrison set Barbatos up to be, and more the personification of like the demon that Batman is inside his own like mind, if you will.
Right. It's what they're talking about at the beginning with Arzin, where he's like, it's your ego that won't let, like, yes, you would sacrifice yourself to save Gotham, but you also don't like the thought of Gotham without you. That's kind of what Barbatos is. It's almost Bruce's ego that kind of drives. When I say ego, I'm meaning it in the psychological, not like, what we think of as ego, but it's his pure desire, right, to constantly protect Gotham. And it's almost like Barbatos is telling him to fully give in. Yeah.
Although it does seem even darker than that as well. It feels like this is a darkness that Bruce can't come back from. So he's like, well, you'll taste the darkness just a little bit, and he says no, and Barbatos calls him stubborn.
Yep.
But yeah, he's there to like fight off the. So it does give us this ticking time clock right now, because the issue ends with Batman just coming out the sewer, great, and like all this just sort of leaves off at that point. But it leaves off with Barbatos is fighting off this infection of this other entity trying to take control of Batman's body, and it puts us on this ticking time clock of like something's in Batman's body trying to take over, and presumably that won't be resolved and taken out until maybe the end of the arc or something like that.
Right.
So that means that throughout this story, we're probably going to see glimpses of like him having to fight off like this thing trying to take control of him.
Yeah, I mean, and we had all those backups that were written, I think, by Cy Spurrier, of Two-Face doing the same thing. Right? When they try to get him with
that's actually a really interesting point, is that thematically all that Two-Face stuff from the first, arc of this all of a sudden feels even more relevant, because now Batman himself is having to fight off like another side of him inside now. Or the other side that's effectively his Two-Face, like Harvey has the evil Two-Face.
Right.
Barbatos is effectively his Two-Face, and then this third entity is coming in fighting for control. And there's a lot of fun stuff happening here with that. Yeah.
And you get an appearance by Two-Face in this, right? Because you have the ten-eyed man who's like, I see cities, and cities have personalities, and this one is changing even if people don't see it. I see it, right? Because he's the ten-eyed man. He's a creep, and he says creepy things like that. But Two-Face is sitting there, and one of his henchmen come up to him, and ask what they're going to do, and he just gets this determined look on his face of tight patrols, up security.
He's batting down the hatches effectively.
Right. And so he's just like, we're going to weather the storm, right? Because he knows what the Orgums are about. And so it's almost like they're kind of, not that they're playing into his hands, but it's almost like he knows that this is going to be their downfall.
And specifically, this is Two-Face, the persona, talking as well the entire time. It's never the good Harvey side, yeah.
Right, because because he took over to defeat the Asmer. Remember, because he had to tell him who Batman was. He's like, I know you know. And so if you just tell me, then I'll do this for you. So again, it ties in thematically with Barbatos of, just give in and I'll defeat this thing. So,
and I think that's the point, is that Harvey did give in ultimately, whereas Bruce probably will not. Won't. Yeah. Right. And that'll be interesting.
We'll get a demonic Batman, running the streets,
Hey, based on the art here, because the best art in the issue by far is the Barbatos stuff, which is obviously Reese. That stuff looks fantastic, and if we're going to build up to like almost like if the Asmer, because obviously the Asmer turns people into something, like one of them's a werewolf, one's the whatever. Right. I do wonder if like Bruce literally for a while, whilst this is in his system, turns into this big bat monster.
If this is Bruce's like Capwolf moment, like, and we get a Man-Bat-esque kind of creature Batman, I'm here all the way for it. And this is what comics are meant for, is silly shit like this that you can take seriously. So. Well,
it's well written and everything's seeded appropriately, and there's themes that back it up. It's not just for the sake of, wouldn't it be cool if he turns into a monster? Then you're in for a good time. And he even brings up the past with Raz, and your father was betrayed, but not in the way you think he was, and that neatly ties in again to the continuation of this story in the backup, which is young Arzin. He wanted to defend this tree, but these assassins shot from the League of Assassins. Or are they from the League of Assassins, as we find out by the end? Honestly, the reveal that it was the mother, probably, who sent these assassins after her own son to, snap him out of this, emotional shit, was, the most predictable, and not in a bad way, but it was the most predictable thing that it could have been.
Because, she had her husband's best friend kill her husband. So of course that she's gonna send, and I also feel like if the assassins would have killed Arzin, she would just be like, okay, what's the next plan?
The big thing here is that some of the henchmen, the guards, and the whatever, they come out and they kill 2 of the 3 assassins, and one runs into the garden, but they've got the garden closed off, so the assassin can't get out. And young Arzin says, "Hey, we're not going to just hunt him down. That's not enough. We have to do this properly. And basically decides to burn down the entire garden. And we actually get panels of this assassin burning in the flames as the entire garden's on fire. It's like the darkest shit ever. And my favorite thing of the whole backup is that when he suggests this, the look of pride on his mother's face.
It's almost like she has tears in her eyes.
Yeah, she's like, oh, my sweet boy.
Yeah, yep. Yeah, he goes all Seth Rollins and burns it down, even his beloved tree. That the whole point of that garden, right, was him finding the spot for that tree that him and his dad planted. And they had to destroy parts of the garden. And so in order to, kill the people that were trying to kill him, he burns everything down.
Well, the whole thing last time was that you have to kill other things so that the one thing you want to live can live. Here it extends more into you have to kill everything to start again so that something new can grow, and
Right. And so, he's, he makes that decision, and that's what she needs him to do, right? And then she has a music box made, which again, tying back into the music box from the very beginning of this arc in Detective Comics. She has a music box made from the burned wood of that tree for him. And then also filled with body parts from the assassin, right?
Is that the same box? I wasn't sure if that was the same box.
I'm not sure, but she gives him a box, and there's, I don't know if that's supposed to be the idea of the tree in it, right?
The box, because the box she looks at in the last page, which has the tongue and the eye, which are talking to her, might I add, and basically giving her advice.
Yep.
I didn't think that was the same box she gave to him. I could be wrong, but
they look very similar though from the way that they're drawn, so I'm not sure.
But the other one has like a little mini tree pop out and it plays music, whereas this one's just an empty box.
Right, but is that supposed to be like? To me, I read that as that was his idea of the tree, right? This is what the tree's become. And so I didn't imagine like there was a little tree that popped out of it. So
I mean, you might be right. I don't know if it's ultimately that important if it's the same box or not.
It's not.
I think it's she's getting this advice
from body parts, and it's and this where it's intimated that she set the assassins. It wasn't Roz.
Yeah, right? And it's also motivated her son to train, and he's just training constantly, because there's like a panel where it says, oh, ever since the fire, there's been nothing but the sound of clanking metal. The idea that he's been sword training the entire time since. Yeah. So he's determined. Well, it seems, he's got his goals now. He's dead set. Basically his mother got everything she wanted.
Right. And I also took it as this pulls him closer into her realm of the Asmer, right? Like his bodyguard that died. It's almost like she was like, he can't have that honorable man around, or else he won't take the leap. So it's almost twofold. Right, that she gets rid of this bodyguard, almost his kind of Alfred-like character, in order to push him down the dark path. So, and he looks pretty scary there at the end. The last panel, the Mize, there ain't nothing in there.
Yeah, that's an interesting way to put it. Is that he was kind of like his Alfred, and she has went out of her way to take his Alfred away from him. Imagine Bruce if Alfred was taken from him as well, not too long after his parents, and how much of a new devastating experience that would be, and maybe that would have set him down a path that would have been less
and even darker.
Yeah. So, there's some interesting parallels there to. It's almost like he could have been another Batman with the way he was going, but at every chance she is just no, push it further this direction at every possible juncture. So no, which is good, because it's giving him some more depth as a character, which is good. As we're playing out the story in the present day part of the issue.
Yeah, these backups have been pretty strong so far. I mean, there's the occasional one that the Gordon stuff that was kind of hit or miss.
Well,
but
that was very separate, whereas this last couple have been very, very closely related to what's going on in the main story, and they've been better for it because they're actually enhancing a character in the main story.
Oh yeah, because I enjoyed the Freeze ones too. The two Freeze ones I brought up earlier. This one, it kind of informs the story. I always like when backups do that, right? They feel like they're part of the greater narrative, but while telling their own story. So
yeah. No, it's very good. Obviously, and we'll be saying this for almost everything we talk about today. There'll be no issue next month because, or even the month after, because we're doing Night Towers instead. So, what are you rating this issue, Matt?
I'm giving this an 8.5.
Okay. I think I'll go a little bit lower. I think because of the art shifting, in the main story, and even the fact that even a couple of pages of Reese's art because of the choice with hulked up Arzen, I just don't think I can quite go higher than an 8. But I'll give it the 8 because I really like what the story's doing. I like the choices he's been given. I really like this fight for who Batman is inside of him now that he's been infected with the asthma.
Yep.
That's all interesting. The backup's enhancing the characters in the main story. They need the fleshing out. You know, unlike Batman and Co, who we've had for a long time, this is fleshing out one of the newer characters. So that's quite smart. Very good.